do we juxtapose your statement in 2019 with your current statement that if the Supreme Court doesn't give justice, it's up to the Nigerian people to act?
Look, when I was saying that, it was clear to me that by the time the Supreme Court would have done that, there would have been sufficient evidence in the public space as to the level of confidence the people might repose in the judicial system. If it comes to the point where the hope of the common man in the judicial system is as violently torn asunder as it has just been done, then the first thing that the common man must understand is that he has no hope in the judiciary. Now, it is at that point that I expect that all men of good conscience, regardless of their political or ideological persuasions, must be able to identify the truth. And in identifying the truth, chart a course into the kind of future they expect to see, and then mobilize the people behind that. At this point, it's no longer about a Peter Obi, an Atiku, or even a Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if the truth be told. It's about who are we as a people? What kind of country are we looking to build? Even the people who are members of the political class, what pains me the most for them, which is probably what is responsible for their mad acquisition of unconscionable wealth. Power is transient. I have seen persons who occupied very high offices after their retirement gone back to be victimized by the systems that they helped to build. So why can't enough men of goodwill recognize the existential danger to the well-being of the Nigerian Commonwealth, even though one had never been built before? Nigeria has been the fiefdom of thieves, crooks, buccaneers of all sorts. But there is an opportunity to make a U-turn. But where are the men and women of goodwill? Why is it that those speaking to the anomalies are the ones appearing to be insane? Why have we found the grace to normalize evil? How? How did we become like this? So it is up to the people. In the age of vote run, you go out there and be demanding, come on the street. How do you go to the street without uniting the street? So it's a two-part thing. The first part is denuding the system sufficiently to the point where it becomes impossible for the system to deny the facts of its abject evil. That has happened already. The system has been sufficiently denuded. The people's illusions have been shattered. Very few of these pastors or imams can actually speak with any credibility any longer. They have been exposed as being part of the rot. That is a major achievement, that we can silence all these hypocritical religious merchants. That is important, and that has happened. With that happening, men of goodwill also need to come to the knowledge of the fact that their own lives are just moments in time. We have to think of a country that we must leave behind for our children. Now ask ourselves, is this the country, one where the law does not matter, where impunity reigns supreme? If you know that that is not the country you want to leave behind for your children, it is imperative that you stand up in this season.
Now, let me just preempt you, and I crave your indulgence in this regard. And considering Nigerians, I mean, what we've learned following Bola Tinubu's long time strategizing for a while now, many of us know that he's already plotting to extend his chokehold on Nigeria by obliterating, so to speak, the possibility of anyone else winning the 2027 presidential election, if there is going to be elections, considering the fact that he has even started positioning his people in INEC. What reforms or change will you recommend to Peter Obi at this point in time?
Let's be clear about something. This is not about Peter Obi first. Let's get that out of the way. But let's also be clear about something. You cannot reform evil. If we have learned nothing from the election cycle completed by the Supreme Court's judgment, if we've learned nothing, we must at least have learned that the Nigerian state and its governing systems are completely evil and incapable of delivering on the aspirations of the common man and woman on the streets of Nigeria. It doesn't matter whether you are Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, Yoruba. It does not matter. It is about the system that are being built. The system being built is not being built for the people.
So the question now is, how does public perception change the trajectory?
You see, the only way that happens, the first thing that we must always do is speak the truth unapologetically. When you speak the
that
truth,
is, if you have men of goodwill coming or rising up, to speak the truth.
well, then you must understand, and this is one lesson the Nigerian left particularly must understand. Generals can never run faster than their armies. If the people are not awakened to the reality of their enslavement, their liberation would be prolonged. If those who should be igniting the change, who should be the ones provoking the revolution by educating the people, are themselves uneducated as to the realities of their existence, the day will continue to be long. Fact of the matter is that we who are saying that we want things to change must first of all, on our own, understand the terrain of our battles, understand the fact that without the people becoming aware, we cannot provoke the change we need to provoke.
You once were quoted as saying that the greatest weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed, and physical enslavement demands that the subject they care for, while mental enslavement demands no care for the victims. In these circumstances, and Nigerians themselves are weird, the people themselves are weird.
See, the idea of feudalism thrives on two basic principles. The first is that those to be ruled, who they prefer to refer to as subjects, must be ignorant. So you find that access to education is always limited. So ignorance is weaponized. But for ignorance to be fully endemic, in the midst of that, you find the introduction of fundamentalist religion. It's very simple. Everything is black or white, no shades of gray, because you cannot allow the man to use a non-existent brain. So you tell him, Mr. A is your enemy, Mr. B is your friend. Whoever the pastor or the imam says is the man of God is the man of God. Wherever he says you should go is where you must go. That is why you find that the religious class is part of the ruling class. So when you have that mix, and then you have weaponized poverty, because once you constrain a man's imagination, which is what weaponized ignorance does, once you constrain his imagination, his capacity to create value is constrained. So he's thinking that he has to beg. He has to depend on the persons who have been built up as his God. for his livelihood. So at that point, with his life broken down to existentialism, where it's all about what am I going to eat? Where am I sleeping? It's about basic. He is incapable of thinking beyond the day, beyond the moment. He is not going to be in a position to challenge the rulers. What you are seeing in the Nigerian space is the full manifestation of feudalism masquerading as a democracy. Now, without the people being awakened to the fact of their objective realities, any Voltron, and that is what I'll call the like of me if I begin to imagine that I can on my own change things. I'm not important. My importance is in my capacity to enlighten the next man. Let the next man come to the knowledge of the true state of his existence. It is when you come to the true state of your existence that you begin to engage your imagination towards finding solutions to your identified problems. So, our situation is not irredeemable.
Okay. That's exactly where I want to. I was going to ask my final question because our time is fast. But you say our situation is not irredeemable. What's next for Nigeria?
For me, everything I had to say or ever have to say about where we are, our objective realities, I've said it. I don't believe that there is anything to be gained in continuing to do a post-mortem. But I believe that we must redouble our efforts in letting the people know the exact state of Nigeria. We must also not be shy in letting them know that nothing good can come out of this system. And the only way out is to have a turnaround that is predicated on reimagining our entire governance systems, reimagining the role of the people as citizens within that system, reimagining the reinstitution of law and order, the institution of the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, a reformation of the governance systems to build institutions. We must not be shy in letting the people know that any lie about an election in 2027 is exactly that, lies. We cannot have any election based on the existing legal order.
So in 1 minute, final thoughts. What would Nigeria be subjected to for the next 4 years? Even though I'm not saying that you are you have the power, prophetic
frankly,
visions of a mystic or a clairvoyance.
No, I would even frame it differently. When you say what would Nigerians be subjected to, it is suggestive of an acceptance of victimhood. Because if you are subjected, it means an acceptance of rulership. So the ruler gets to dictate what happens to you. But that's not going to happen. I know that if the system were to have its way, the like of us will be silenced.
Yeah.
But the beauty of our situation is that enough people have been awakened, and you actually cannot recall a bullet that has been fired. Nigerians will not be subjected to anything because we will resist. This government that we have not elected but has imposed itself on us, we learn to walk with pretending that we are in a democracy. Some people bled for this democracy. It is on us, the living, to ensure that the democracy that we want, the true democracy itself, is what governs in this space. If we fail, that's our own failure. But to be talking about what would we be subjected to, no. It's the Supreme Court has helped us. We have clarity now. We know who our friends are and who we need to be worried about. So the coming days, months, and years promises to be fun, but we are not going to be subjected to anything because we will resist.
Dear, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.